What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
Together we are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We give the people what they want.
A lot to discuss today, but we start in the Bay where the Lakers came to town. They looked a little different, though. They were without LeBron James in uniform. Off of a good performance from AD and that man Kyle Kuzma that came away with a win. LeBron does so much for this team, Jalen. What was it like to see them without him?
Well, it was basically unlocking what could be some young, talented forwards playing quality minutes if they didn't have an MVP level, future Hall of Fame, 35-year-old, 17th year guy that really is so very dominant at this point of his career in LeBron James. It unlocked Kyle Kuzma, and it allows you to feature Anthony Davis. That's really what it kind of gave you a glimpse of. And I came into the season acknowledging that if the Lakers are going to win it all, it's because Kyle Kuzma is going to elevate himself into a big three along with those two guys. But when you get hurt playing Team USA, you start training camp injured, the team gets off to a great start, and LeBron really plays up front with AD and kind of plays your position and really playing your minutes. It's really no way to integrate you back in the situation. You have to get in where you fit in. But each time Kuzma gets extended minutes, he continues to be really productive.
Kuzma will be very helpful for them and a big contributor come playoff time when they make that run. But even though it was fun to watch Kuzma and AD on the floor, it was more fun to watch LeBron James just sort of free of responsibility, just watching the game like you or I, like a fan, because he really seemed to enjoy himself. There he is, making jokes with Danny Green. But Jalen, just tell me what you see from James's body language on the sideline.
He was enjoying himself. He living his best life. He suited and booted, got $1 million worth of jewelry on, got his top pin or brooch or something that he probably saw an OG rocking back in the day. His haircut super crisp. He ain't have to wear a do-rag. His team is the best record in the Western Conference. He got more money than God. His kids are successful. His wife is beautiful. Like, he living his best life. That's what load management should be.
Wait, load management. What about the sore groin, Jalen? He had an injury. He was injured. That was a groin injury. What do you mean load management, Jalen? What do you mean?
That's OG in-season load management. It's one thing for a guy to play, 10, 12 years and take a night off. It's another thing where a guy's 27 years old. Like, it's way different.
Fair. Well, someone who actually is injured is, on the Warriors, Steph Curry. There were some reports that maybe he would come back this Sunday, but then they refuted that report. Well, they're going to meet on Friday to create a plan for Steph Curry's return from hand surgery. Jalen, if you were in that meeting, what would you suggest that plan be?
I would suggest giving Steph Curry at least 10 nice games to play this year. Just to allow him to play the game that he loves, put in some work. If he wasn't in the NBA, he'd be somewhere playing ball anyway. Dad was in the league. Brother's currently in the league. He had a hand injury. It's not like he have a foot injury or a knee injury or something to his lower extremities. So therefore, if he's healthy, I wouldn't have him going 40 minutes full throttle for every game for the remainder of the season. But I'll give him a nice 10, 15 game stretch where he can get a sweat in and salvage something for this regular season.
I think that makes sense. Jalen, the Thunder beat the Kings last night for their 5th straight win. And just take a look at this stat. I found this really interesting. What they have done is they have won 15 games when trailing entering the fourth quarter. That's almost double the nearest. Jalen, what does that tell you about their team that they've come back and won 15 times so far this season?
Well, they have multiple players that can dribble, pass, and shoot. And when you look at their collection of their team, you really don't know who you want to try to feature as it relates to stopping. They have a three-headed monster at the guard position with SGA, CP3, and Schrader. And when you go up front, they got tall wings like Gallinari that can make threes and drive. You know, Steven Adams was your guy. You know he's going to play with effort. So They have so many different players that can show up and give you productivity on a nightly basis. And again, I want to give Billy Donovan a lot of credit. It seems like the Kings are having it seems like the Thunder are having the kind of season that people thought the Kings would have, and yet they're still balling.
They really are. I did not expect the Thunder to be this good, but then when you watch the games, you're like, oh, yeah, they do have a lot of weapons. And Schroeder, who people don't talk about that much, he's averaging 19 points a game. Really impressive. Jalen, the Sixers got a win last night without Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. However, it was against the Knicks, so, you know, you got to take it for what it is. But they got 34 points from Tobias Harris. Jalen, how do they get this kind of production from Harris when Embiid and Simmons are on the floor?
David Jacoby, one of the things I learned in sports that was so very valuable to me, by the way, I grew up in an era that whatever season it was, we played that sport. So I played a little soccer. I played a little baseball. I did a little boxing. I played football. I played basketball. And the reason why I feel like it's important for young people to play so many different sports is you learn how to be a teammate depending on your role. Whether you're the go-to guy or whether you're a guy that's minimized, whether you're somebody that's appreciated, whether you're somebody that's featured, or whether it's not. So in high school, I played with Sean Leonard and Howard Isley. Both of those guys balled in college and balled in the league. In college, I was a member of the Fab Five. On a nightly basis, somebody else got to get going. And what you're seeing, we talked about this with Porzingis. We talked about it with AD and Kuzma. And now we're talking about this with Tobias Harris. Basically, what you're saying is players that aren't the alpha, the one option on their team, how are you able to get that same productivity from them when the best player is available? And that's a sacrifice that they have to figure out. And for Tobias Harris, it's going to be crucial for this Philadelphia team because they invested in him and they gave him the belief that he could do it. Now he's got to be able to do it when those other two guys are present.
Well, I've got some good news and some bad news about the availability of Joel Embiid. The good news is there's no structural damage. The bad news is he'll be out at least a week. Now, a week is not that long, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that's possible with this injury. Do you think the Sixers can hold on without Simmons or Embiid in the lineup?
So sports will humble you, and that visual right there is just the opposite of the visual we saw from Joel Embiid late against, I think, the Utah Jazz, when he shot a three-point shot that he probably didn't have to shoot to try to get him closer to 50 points, and he was really celebrating that bucket, as I would. I found ways in my career all through my life. Sometimes I was celebrating, and then you look back at it and you realize sometimes you were front running. And so now when you are so very dominant in that previous game, and then all of a sudden the next game happens at Cleveland, and your team gets the brakes beat off of it because you're not able to go. This is why I implore young people to play sports, because it gives you a range of emotions that you have to find a way to navigate yourself through, because just when you feel like it's all about you and you're shining in the ultimate moment, injuries or losses or unexpected things take place. But I expect him to respond and continue to play at an all-NBA level.
I think the game you're discussing was actually against the Hawks. I might be wrong, though. But now it's time.
Yeah, it was against the Hawks. Good call.
It's time for you and I to go to the table. Jalen, I saw just a simple dunk on Instagram, but I watched it over and over because I needed to see it, and then the more I saw it was like a good movie. The more I saw it, the more things I noticed. So, Jalen, first of all, look at that dunk, okay? How impressive was that dunk on its own? But then you realize that it was aided by his teammate in the orange shirt. So, Jalen, still impressive if you get a little help from your teammate.
That's extremely impressive. He definitely got help from his teammate. But don't underestimate the courage it takes to put your head above a rim, because guess what? Your feet have to eventually hit the floor. And that was not a clean landing.
Yes.
That was not a clean landing. That can go the wrong way. I appreciate the effort. But here's also what I appreciate. You hear that? You hear that soundtrack? You hear that music?
Yeah.
That reminds me of Boys in the Hood. You see Cube over my shoulder with the Doughboy hat on, representing the old English D. It reminds me of the scene when his brother got shot and they took the body back to the house. And they were in the living room. The baby shouldn't be seeing this. You remember that part?
Yes, Jalen
The
Rose.
baby shouldn't be seeing this.
I do not know how it's related to that dunk that we just saw, but I do want to point something out from the dunk that we just saw.
The music.
Let me
It's
show
the
you something from
music.
this dunk. Jalen Rose, look at this dunk one more time, and I want you to answer this question. Where are they playing? Why is there like a castle behind them? Is this the mid-1500s? Where is this?
I love that location. I love that location. That looks fly. But you don't remember that part in Boys in the Hood? You ain't even see Boys in the Hood, did
I do
you?
remember that part in Boys in the Hood, Jalen Rose. I just do not know how it is related to that dunk in front of a castle.
The music.
I don't understand.
The music.
We play
the
this music every day on this show. Jill, go to break. Go to break.
That's what it remind me of.